Once you have the Columbus program activated in your System Settings menu, you can find Columbus under Special in the Edit menu, alphabetically north of the white line. But first, what we want to do is we want to create a map so that we can place a line or an object to flow across the screen. A new program that Macrosystem offers is a program called Express Maps. Express Maps adds additional maps to the Columbus program to use. For instance, if we come over to Select a Map, we can see a series of different types of maps that Express Maps comes with. And in this case, I'll just pick Florida here and choose to keep that as my image. And if you want, you can go into full-size preview to see the image, and you can give it cities, names, or add borders if you need to. Once you've selected your map, go ahead and hit OK and click OK again. The system will automatically start to build your sample, and then in the scene bin, what we'll have is a new map. So let's go get that map. It should be here at the end of the scene bin. And there's our Express Maps, and we can click on Special to activate Columbus and start the program. So you can see we already have some points that have already been done on this system. Over on the right here, the first thing we want to do is go to the default, and it'll allow you to set it to default settings. This is a very useful feature, especially if you've been adding several points on here and you want to just reset it so that it's not so confusing for you. Basically, you can look at Columbus breaking it apart into two different places. One is we have 6 different icons over here that indicate different controls for Columbus. Every time you click on one of these points, this middle area will change with commands based on the point you've selected here. Over to the right, this is just merely a timer. This just tells you how long the scene is going to be. If you want to create a longer one, we can change a timer here shortly. But it shows you basically what is happening at a certain frame point in your scene. So at 4 seconds, we see the yellow line has made it about to this length. We have a preview function. You can save some of your map making. You can do the defaults, and the info button tells you information about the program. Over on the left here, we're going to take a look at each button here. The first one here allows you to choose points. Every point on the screen, you'll notice here, we have a first one and a last one. The X means this is the ending point. The arrow means this is a starting point. And anytime you left click on your line, you create new little pointers. These pointers can be either called waypoints or key points. Notice that when I'm using it as a waypoint just merely means this is an area or a direction in which this line is going to bend, so that your path will change once it's reached this point. A key point basically means the same thing, but allows you to place an object on it. So that means if you have an object you've placed, maybe like a plane or a bus, and it travels along, it comes to this key point, it can either fade in or fade out here, or it can stop, or it could proceed on to the final destination point. This is another area where you can also make your lines round or angular. So you can see it making the bend changes there, and you can set pause times at the key point. Pause times are only going to be allowed if you've made a particular point a key point. By using a waypoint, you'll notice the pause slider is gone. That means that your line will just proceed across the screen, go up to where the waypoint is, and then continue on until it finds the other zone. You notice when we have a waypoint selected here, these buttons here have grayed out. No commands can be given to waypoints. They're just invisible pointers for your destination path. So if we left click on the first point or the last point, we notice these are called key points. And so now the 6 buttons have been given commands. We can either come in here and have our objects fade in or fade out if we have a plane or a bus at the starting point. We can set the route time here, and this is where we're setting the time of length of how long it takes us from to get to here all the way to the end here. And right now we've got it set to 8 seconds. So if we want this to be a quicker path, we'll make this happen in just a little bit at around 2 seconds. Okay, so now when I click preview, you'll notice the line is flying through. Okay. Of course, we're flying out here from the sea, so let's start ourselves up at a different destination. By left-clicking on one of your points, it becomes blue, and this means it's active to drag and place in a new location. So I can come down here and left-click on this waypoint, and I double-click again to make it blue, and I can drag it down here to Tampa. And same for this one. Once we click it on once, it's green to be active. Left-click again, drag it over to your location. Okay, so now we have a path going from a few cities to the final one. Let's go back to our key point. So left-click on that. Over here, this button here, this allows you to work individually with your key points. You can change objects, positions, and views of whatever object has been placed on this specific key point. Okay? Right now we have the objects set to global. That means that anything that we've set up as a key point, beginning and ending, whatever the objects are, they're going to be a global option. So if we wanted to have a different type of object on these two different key points, we would work here to make individual changes, so that maybe this might be a pin, maybe this might be a flag. We're going to leave these as global options. The titling button, this allows you to type text next to any kind of key point. So I'll just click Start, and you'll notice it placed a start right up here near the screen. You can give distance changes to how close you want it to that key point, the position of where it's going to be next to the key point, or you can go back and change your text. The last button down here is the most important one. This is the one you'll probably use the most. And you'll see that it has a big globe. This is basically talking about global settings. So when you left click up here, you'll see under global settings we have all these different things we can change. Obviously the text attributes, anything that we've given a title to, we can come up here and start making changes to the outline or to the colors of your font or the outline. So text attributes. The line, if we want to have a line, we can activate the line with a check mark or deactivate it. And we can give it a color, a thickness with the width here, or the line type. So if I deactivate the draw line here, if I have any kind of object starting here, all we're going to see is just the object. So let's give it an object. By coming down here, we talk about our key positions and views. First we're going to talk about head object. Head object is the object that's actually going to do the traveling for you. So we need to select Show Object, and we can see here's the plane. And let's take it back down to the first frame or starting point. So we needed to move this slider over to 0. We can change our head object. You'll see now we have some three-dimensional choices here of cars and buses and angles and shapes and planes, different types of items. We're just going to choose the plane for now. And you can choose the type of color that you want the plane to be. So I'll just give it a red line here and hit OK. Object size, when you click on that, allows you to raise and lower the size of your object, so we'll leave it large here. And the auto direction allows you to make the plane follow along the path or not. If I deactivate it, then the plane will keep this direction while it follows along this path. But if I click on auto direction, then the plane will point and follow along the path of where our points are. Okay, that was pretty quick, so I might go back to my timer and make this a little slower. Do something around maybe 5.5 seconds. Back under the global settings, we can see if we can change the head position here. So if you want to change where it's going to start from, the angle in which it's going to start from here on this key object. And then we also have some other views. Views are where we get all our axis. You can now see that the Casablanca in this program gives you X, Y, and Z axis to work with. So now we can take it on all planes and bend the plane in any direction that you want. That's for the head view. So now we've got our object. We've given it the position we want, what kind of view we'd like. Let's talk about the key objects. Remember, the key objects are the little icons that are placed over the pointers that have been destined to be key points. We can get rid of them. You see when I clicked on the check mark, they disappeared here. Or we can activate them and select a key object again. So maybe I want to use a big tack, and I'll keep my color tack red. If we want, we can come over here to object size and size the tack to be larger. You'll notice that it's only affecting the one key point. Basically this is giving you a preview of the location you're currently at But since it is a global change, you'll notice when I left click to release, it'll make the changes to any other pointer that's been designated as a key point. So now these tacks are larger. So now if we hit preview, we'll see that our plane goes from Tallahassee to Tampa, up to Jacksonville, turns around, and then finally comes down to here. The other options in global changes, you have things such as the transition, so if you want to have the fade in or fade outs at certain key points again. And finally, we have choices of light, if we want to add spotlights or lights to our object. Notice how I deactivated the light on the plane. I've given a spotlight in a direction so that the light is falling across the plane. By left-clicking on the check mark, I basically deactivate it. Now we have a more dull colored plane choice here. We can change that light direction, and of course we can change the light color. So if I wanted to use some other kind of color here, I could use that as my light. Notice how it changed it more to a lighter blue shade. So once it's done, all you have to do is come back out to the Edit menu. And if you want to, there's a choice here to split at key points. This basically means when the object either stops or hits the key point, whether it's fading in or fading out at the key point, we can make it do an auto split. So if the object finishes at a key point, what the machine will do is break your little scene down into several scenes based on every time your object hits a key point. We didn't select any key points, so I'm going to keep this at no and hit OK to build my scene. So now it'll start the render. It'll take your object and move it across. And remember, if we set this up as a key point here, we could have had the plane fade in and out. So it would have done an auto split. And in the scene bin, we would have had two scenes. First, where the plane went up to the Jacksonville area, faded out. And then the second scene would have the fade in with the Jacksonville going to the completion final destination point. That way, you could add your scene up to the storyboard, choose a scene for your transportation, and then choose again, of course, if you had your split, so that you basically fade in and out from your traveling with the object that's doing the traveling back to its final destination. One additional note about the Columbus program is it does work with just the first frame of whatever scene you're using in the scene bin. So you don't need to make a map an extra long scene since it's using only the first frame. If you want to use the map drawing tools on moving video, then you'll probably need to use the program Blue Box, so that you'll draw your objects or lines on a green screen, key them out, so that then they can move over your video. By using the key out, you could use Columbus for even more applications. For more information about the Columbus program, check out our website, www.casablanca.tv.